Hello, and welcome back to Mustaches on Mustafar. I know it's been a little while. Took a month off of streaming, but I got a very special guest today, and he's actually doing a face reveal. He's never, I believe, shown his face like on YouTube in this format. So, everybody, give a warm welcome to Luke from the Scoundrel's Cantina.
Hello there.
Is
How's
that your
it
real
going?
face? Do you just keep your helmet on constantly?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's how I usually
That's
record,
awesome.
But anyway, yeah, why not? Let's do it.
All right. Ta-da!
Yep.
And he does have a
That's me.
mustache, so there we go.
Yeah. Hello
Awesome.
there. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And we got in the chat so far one person, Avella Vendella. Here's a sip for you. So I know a lot of people are probably not going to be watching this. They're probably still working in other parts of the country. It's 2 p.m. I think on Pacific time, but they can watch after the fact. The reason we're doing that is because you are not in America, right?
Nope, never was, honestly.
All right.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit from Serbia, and we've talked a little bit about how you, as a foreigner to me at least, views the United States. Talk to politics a little bit. This is a Star Wars stream, so we'll keep it Star Wars. But you're from Serbia.
Yep.
And what is the Star Wars fan scene like there, where you're at? It's like, is anyone a Star Wars fan, or are there lots of Star Wars fans?
Well, let's say about 10 years ago, it was quite rare, at least to my knowledge, without the social media and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So basically then I felt that it was rare. I'm not sure what it was like then, but at least like 5 years ago, it really started to get going when it comes to fandom. So
Right.
there are a lot of fans now, definitely here.
Nice.
For a lot of franchises. So yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. And I see you have a World of Warcraft poster behind you, and I'm sure you're into other things as well. It looks dope, but I don't recognize what it's from.
It's actually for the Horde.
Okay. Right.
I've got plenty of things. I love WoW quite a bit. It's really my thing,
Yeah, Novella says Europe gang. She's in Europe as well. And I'm not going to try to guess the country because to me, I can't tell them apart, and I don't remember which one you're from. So I'm sorry. I won't even try to remember.
It's ironic because I know exactly where you are and everyone.
Yep. Yeah, I don't hide where I'm from. I moved to Tennessee almost a year ago, and I love it. I'm really proud of being in Tennessee now compared to California. And I always tell people, yeah, seriously, we've talked about that before. And I tell people, like even subscribers, like if you're in Tennessee, in East Tennessee, like hit me up and we'll meet up. I think that'd be really cool. I've met a couple people. Oh yeah, Strike says, "Did I hear Europe gang?" He's our resident Boba Fett expert, and he's from Germany. He's also really into Legos as well. So I'm sure you guys could talk about Lego Star Wars.
I can talk quite a bit about Lego.
Swedish, I think. That sounds right, but I don't know. Uh-oh.
Let me guess.
Sweden.
Italy or France?
No, I think it's Norway.
You think?
Is it Norway? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'm sorry. But anyway, we're going to get into some Boba Fett talk. And I know there's been 100 other streams talking about Book of Boba Fett so far. Some very heated discussions because there's some pretty hot opinions about this show. A lot of people really like it. A lot of people are kind of apathetic towards it. And a lot of people really, really don't like the show. And a lot of media outlets really, really don't like the show.
Even mainstream media.
Strike says Finland, quick before she hunts you down. Okay, Finland. Yeah, mainstream media outlets. There's a lot of articles that I see just pop up on my phone like every day talking about how terrible this show is and how Disney is ruining the character of Boba Fett. I disagree, but I guess how people feel about it. But you were saying something interesting the other day when we were talking. You have a completely different take on the show as a whole. and even going back to Heir to the Empire, if I'm not mistaken, in your view of everything post Return of the Jedi. So why don't you kind of explain how you feel about that?
Specifically about the show or in general?
Well, just in general, you were kind of telling me you're not too invested in this show because to you everything after Return of the Jedi doesn't need to happen with with the Chosen One prophecy and everything like that.
Oh, so basically, it's not really a surprise to a lot of my subscribers because usually me and my friend Todd, who's also the owner of the channel, we do our lore videos. Like if we do post Return of the Jedi Expand Universe lore videos, we explain our opinion on it at the end of it. But we completely honor the stories after it when it comes to the EU because they're still good stories. Where basically the premise of our view is when Disney bought Star Wars. And in general, before Disney bought Star Wars, the only way we could enjoy Star Wars that made sense to us personally was that Return of the Jedi was the happy ending. Because first of all, we were unaware of the EU after it. When we heard about it for the first time, it was so bizarre. Like I've never seen, like hearing about the son of Han Solo, Jason and Jaina and Anakin Solo. It was so bizarre. Like it felt like fan fiction. But in truth, they're very good stories when you get to them. But when I first heard it, it really sounded like fabrication, like it wasn't real Star Wars, So, and the movies always led me to believe, along with the shows, that the culmination of the Star Wars universe was with the Chosen One, with destroying evil. I mean, when you look at it from a perspective of real life, evil is still here, whatever happens, But at least in fantasy, I would like there to be a fight between good and evil where light wins at the end, and that's it. A final happy ending. It's fiction after all, so why not? And when it comes to Star Wars, you can like it any way you want because it's fiction. It doesn't matter that much in real life when you look at it. So that was the premise. And when Disney bought it, we simply started mixing some things that we liked from canon into the EU, which can fit together into our head canon, as we call it.
Right. And that's why I always say head canon is the best canon. And this is something that I wanted to talk about a little bit is we have so much Star Wars material, so much content between the animated shows, now the live action shows, the stuff that's about to come out, the comics, the books, the EU, the Disney EU. Like there's so much Star Wars now that people kind of get caught up on saying if something is canon or non-canon or my canon. Like, should it just be head canon is the best canon? What you want to be Star Wars is good for you. Someone might not like the High Republic. Fine, don't count that. Someone's really complaining about the Book of Boba Fett. Fine, don't watch it. Don't enjoy it. Is that kind of how you feel about that?
I completely agree when it comes to head canon is the best canon, because for me, it's the only way I could enjoy Star Wars. You have two continuities. The EU is like, I'd say 98% good with a few misses here and there, like fully. People say that it's very convoluted. That's actually not true at all. It's probably one of the best universe building mechanisms I've ever seen in any fan fiction. You'd be surprised how well it's made in between the comics, novels, and games, how interconnected it is. I'd actually recommend my friend Matt Wilkins, the Expand Universe guy, for it. He has a lot to say about that. And when it comes to canon, well, you have good things in it. There are things I really like about it, which I think are really good Star Wars. And then you have horrible things, like the worst Star Wars you'll ever find, both with novels, comics, and not to mention the sequel trilogy. So mixing is like the only way I could enjoy, canon Star Wars. Although certain parts of it, which I would include into my headcanon with the EU, that's like the only way I can enjoy new stuff. But when it comes to Book of Boba, it's post Return of the Jedi canon. I really don't get invested a lot.
Right.
Same with The Mandalorian. I don't let myself enjoy it. I know it leads to the sequel trilogy, and I generally don't care about canon at all when it comes to after Return of the Jedi stuff.
Well, it does seem like so many people put so much emphasis on if the story is leading to the sequel trilogy. And I'm more and more kind of becoming, or I have the opinion of, so what if it leads there? I'm going to enjoy the story as far as I can along the way. And if it does lead directly into Luke drinking his green milk, I'll find my point where I stop liking it, and I'll just kind of let them do their thing. Yeah, the green milk. I got to play the video.
Do it.
But what I was just trying to say is that it doesn't really matter if it leads into the sequel trilogy or if they're rewriting the sequel trilogy, like all the rumors we've been hearing for the last 3 years. Like it doesn't matter, because just accept what you accept and don't put too much focus or attention on the things that you already know you're not going to like. Like if someone watched the first 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett and they're like, nope, I'm done. Like, okay, don't care. Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's canon or not. Like, that word means nothing at this point. There's a lot
to say about that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that's not canon that a lot of people, accept as canon. The Bane trilogy, I accept as canon for me, and I don't even know if canon at this point is the right word to use. I accept the Bane trilogy as Star Wars for me. I love the Bane trilogy. KOTOR, even though the storylines in the original game are whatever you want it to be, whichever path of the planets or whatever, like that's Star Wars to me. And it goes back to what gives me that feeling of the Star Wars universe. The Book of Boba Fett's doing that for me so far. So yeah, it's past the Chosen One prophecy being completely fulfilled, but to me, it makes me feel that certain way. And I love it so far. So we can get into a little bit of Boba Fett talk. I know where you're coming from with your perspective. I really like it so far. There's some complaints I have against it, but a lot of the major criticisms that people are giving against it, I don't agree with. So first off, what are your main thoughts on the show now that we're past the halfway point?
Well, I can't say I was disappointed, because honestly, I expect it.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Star Wars media in general, like anything they release, I don't have high hopes at all anymore. Let's just say that I feel like I've given up completely, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I watch it. I can't say I pay for it, because I don't. I do watch it. It's not even a chore. It's like, just give me a sec. Someone got in.
Yeah, and while he's talking, unless you're back.
Unbelievable.
There you
go. Yeah, someone pissed me off. I told him to not bother me, but it happens. Sorry about that.
Like I said, it's very casual here.
Where was
I? You didn't have high hopes going into Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. I didn't have high hopes because I usually don't. I've given up on canon Star Wars completely. Like, I used to mix EU and canon in my lore videos, and I think I have decided to stop doing that in general. I go to a certain point. I'd say Rogue One, Star Wars Rebels, Jedi Fallen Order, Clone Wars Season 7, even though it's technically the first 6 seasons are both EU and canon.
Right.
And Bad Batch Season 1 so far. Hopefully Season 2 if it goes well. That's what I would say, and some certain comics, books here and there. The point is, damn, I don't know what the point of that was. I forgot about it. The point is that, I forgot about it.
Well, I don't think anyone should force you into liking something like the Book of Boba Fett. And there's people
I don't like it.
Well, I'm talking about like accepting it. Like there's some people that have the opinion of like you have to accept the Book of Boba Fett. Like sure, all opinions are valid, but some people are really aggressive in saying like, no, you have to accept the show or you're not a true Star Wars fan. And anytime someone says that, you have to feel this certain way or you're not a true Star Wars fan. Like who are you to say that? because I'm sure I could find stuff that you don't agree with, and I could just say the same thing, like, oh, if you don't like this character, then you're not a true Star Wars fan. Oh, if you don't like this story or this book or this comic, you're not a true Star Wars fan. Like, if you like something that's in the Star Wars universe, that's Lucasfilm property, you're a Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And after 6 years of doing YouTube now, in regards to the Star Wars topic, which is every day 365 a year, I literally, I've heard so many points of view on it. And technically, when you look at it, all of them are legit.
Right.
Because it's fiction. It's not like we're talking about whether men and women exist or 700, genders. It's not based in reality. So technically, it literally is something where you can run away from reality and like it the way you want to,
Mr. So Two Star Wars Nerd said, if you don't cheer at Pong Krell's death, are you really a Star Wars fan?
Interesting character, honestly.
He also says Book of Boba Fett is our litmus test for keeping Disney Plus or canceling it. And a lot of people are feeling the same way. I don't blame them. Like I said, I really like the story so far. It's a lot more character development than I think people were expecting or wanting. People have legitimate criticisms against it, but I think they're emotionally wanting something else than this show is providing. And whether that's because of it's Disney that's making it or because they wanted something else out of it, I don't know. But
I honestly feel like the show is kind of inferior to the already existing story, to tell you the truth. I don't know if you're aware of it, but basically the way Boba Fett gets out of the Sarlacc is it's left to debate for the first time.
Well, there's a few different times, right?
He falls in twice, as far as I know.
Okay.
The first time, you just in the comic book, you just see him flying out and hitting the sands, and the Jawas come in and think that he's a droid or a cyborg or something and take him in. Instead, Disney did the that they just took his armor,
Right.
And then you have the Tusken Raiders. You already saw what happens in the series. It's I don't really have a problem with it. I generally don't care too much to have a problem with something anymore. But if I were to be critical or think about it, how did he get special treatment when Shmi Skywalker didn't? Or someone else didn't? Or, for example, that the Tusken Raiders in the war, they don't respect someone who has bare skin.
That's a good point.
For example, for example, you have the EU story of Ashard Heth. He's a Tusken Jedi, survived Order 66. He's in Tatooine, and he comes upon he becomes the war chief of sorts, and he comes upon Obi-Wan defending Luke Skywalker's, the Lars homestead, telling him to go away. A duel erupts, and Obi-Wan beats him, cuts off his, I think it's, his arm off, and takes off his Tusken mask, and immediately everyone deserts him. He's no longer the war chief. It's over, So when it comes to that perspective, it doesn't make sense to me. Like a story, I don't know if you're aware, but I've been working on a Boba Fett short film, an animated one based in the Jedi Academy retro style mod, which I really enjoy. Really gets that nostalgia going with me. So I'm really enjoying working on machinimas there. Basically, I'm doing the EU story of Boba Fett, and I've added an action scene where the Tusken Raiders attack him before he's taken by the Jawas, knocked out or whatever. I mean, he came out of the Sarlacc, and I just added a scene with him there as when he fights them off. It's kind of the opposite of what happened in the series, because it kind of made more sense to me,
Right.
And he takes him out. He gets wounded, everything. And then the Jawas take him. He has some memory loss. That's part of the story. Basically, because of his wounds, and gets knocked out by the Jawa blasters, whatever you call them. And eventually, At the same time, the Jawas already have R2D2, which this basically happens right after what you see in at Jabba sail barge. You know, the Great
Okay.
Pit of Raccoon. Maybe let's say a few weeks later,
Mhm.
something like that. R2D2 is kidnapped, and Mos Eisley by the same Jawas that take Boba Fett, and Han and Leia are looking for him. They get a lead on, try to get the Sandcrawler, and while Boba is there, the Tusken Raiders attack the Sandcrawler at the same time. So there's a battle ensuing. Han gets onto the Sandcrawler and sees Boba Fett, and Boba Fett doesn't recognize him at all because he has some short-term memory loss.
Mm.
And since Han Solo is Han Solo, he decides to rescue him in a way to help him out because Boba Fett is not the same guy that tried to kill him or put him in carbonite there. He helps him get R2D2 off the Sandcrawler while the Sandcrawler is going directly into the Sarlacc pit during the whole battle and everything. And then Leia's yelling, Han, Han, Han. And then Boba Fett remembers when he hears Han. As Han is about to give him his arm to reach out and get him out of the Sarlacc, the Sandcrawler, sorry. Boba Fett just pulls the E3 and starts firing. Han Solo jumps off the Sandcrawler falls into the Sarlacc. That's basically the story. The first time he escapes, it's left to fans to imagine how he escapes. So basically what I did there was listen, in some documentary, George Lucas actually said that the way he would escape would be something including explosives and all his gadgets and stuff like that. So what I did there was thermal detonator ignites his jetpack, got some inspiration from, that Star Wars art where Boba Fett escapes the Sarlacc with the flamethrower into the tentacles and everything, jetpack, whatever.
Right.
So imagine that he ignited his jetpack like one final blow just to get out, gets pulled in again by one of the tentacles while he's flying out, then turns on the flamethrower. You know how that goes, basically.
Right.
So
and
that's
honestly, before the show dropped the first episode, I was going to do a whole lot of EU research on, Crimson Dawn to see if they might show up, the different Boba Fett extended universe stories, the different times he escaped the Sarlacc, like what he did, more about the Boba Fett character. And I didn't do that research because I expected Disney to give us something different. And I didn't want to be let down. I didn't want to be given something different than what we could have gotten, whether it be better or worse. I just wanted to accept what they gave us. I like what they're giving us so far. I think the criticisms against Boba Fett's character, as far as him being weak, I don't find those compelling. But I will say I wish he was using his gadgets in his suit more. Like we saw the knee rockets in Mandalorian. Like that's awesome. That's what we want to see. Like the stuff that Boba Fett is legendary for. Like we want to see that. That would be my one criticism against the Boba Fett character. But
what about the? To me personally, not that I care too much, but if I were to say something, it would be he feels. The last time we saw him in canon after the Return of the Jedi, where I feel he felt like Boba Fett was when he killed Bib Fortuna, without a single word. Just came in, took what he wanted. That's that really felt like the old Boba Fett from the OT in the comics.
And I think the reason why a lot of people are having a problem with the show so far is because we were set up to expect a certain thing out of the show. Between that of him just not saying a word, killing Bib Fortuna, taking over the throne, and assuming the rulership of that part of Tatooine. Between that and all the trailers of him assembling this mafia empire, so to speak, we were pitched a different show than what we got in the first few episodes.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of cold, just so you know.
Oh, that's fine. I thought you were turning to the dark side.
So
you're going down a path I can't follow.
It's really cold. It's snowing outside. So
yeah, it was snowing 2 days ago here. It's not too bad out right now. But I think people were expecting a different show than what we got.
Definitely.
People were expecting the entire show to have the Boba Fett that we saw in The Mandalorian. Which it is, I will admit, some strange decisions to have this storyline, this type of Boba Fett. It makes sense and I like it. But at the same time, I feel like most people were kind of expecting something different than what we're getting. And I do think that Robert Rodriguez coming out and saying, all killer, no filler, every episode is going to have a Luke Skywalker type reveal, like hyping up the show way too much. I do think that was a mistake. I think they shouldn't have said anything like that. Maybe made the trailers more correct to what we're getting in the show and just let the show speak for itself. So
yeah, definitely. And one of the criticisms I'd like to give out in regards to Boba Fett would probably be that he kind of talks too much, in the sense, the things he talks about are not very serious. It doesn't feel like his character
right.
in a way. Like they're very, very lighthearted, and it seems like Fennec is more serious than he is about the whole thing.
Almost to
if
the
you know
point
what
of
I mean.
being annoyed with him.
Yeah,
Like
that's the way it
she's
feels.
kind of like, come on, like be serious, be the Boba Fett that we've heard about.
The thing is, he seems to be really downgrading his reputation with how much he takes off his helmet, how much he doesn't show strength. And to me, probably the biggest miss of the series is his personality in general, the way he acts. Like he seems like it seems like Fennec knows more about everything than he does, even though he's older, more experienced, and considered probably the best bounty hunter in the galaxy.
Well, she's older, isn't she?
No, I wouldn't say she is.
I think she is, because, well, let's think in the Bad Batch.
Oh, actually,
Boba,
yeah,
Boba
19
is
BBY. It's based 19 years before the Battle of Yavin, and Boba is born 32 years. So technically, he's like 13 years old when she's in the Bad Batch. Shit, I actually didn't.
which she's probably mid-20s in the Bad Batch.
At least. I'm just gonna check it.
Yeah,
right
Fennec
now.
is older because she was an adult in the Bad Batch, and Omega was a couple years younger than, I don't know.
Well, it doesn't say
yeah,
when she was born, but yeah, she's actually older, but that doesn't feel that way at all.
No,
At all.
because Tamara Morrison is
60.
Well, I mean, Ming-Na Wen isn't very young either, but he
Yeah, but she-
appears a lot older than she does.
Definitely. I actually never thought that she was older than he was. But still, he had a much better reputation as a bounty hunter in every sense when you look at it. He's probably, apart from Tarkin and Sidious, he's like the only other person in the galaxy that could talk to Vader the way he did.
Yes.
So when you compare that to this, he wants to rule with respect, but really doesn't. I don't know. Doesn't have that gravitas.
Well, I've noticed a few times in the show where characters will say lines directed at another person in the show, but it's almost like it's meant for us, the audience, to pick up on it. So the one line that the guy gives in this last episode is, "No one respects you." Like he said that to Boba Fett's face.
Yeah.
And I felt like that mirrored a lot of the way that a lot of people watching the show felt.
Also,
Fennec saying to him, being with the Tuskens has made you soft. Like a lot of people are feeling that the Boba we're getting in this show is soft. So I don't know if it's an on purpose thing. They could really make sense of everything for the large amount of people. I get it. I don't know. It's just interesting decisions that they're going with so far.
Do you remember the scene when she tells him that walking through the streets atop of slaves or whatever is a sign of, isn't he the one who should know that, since he worked for Jabba?
Yeah.
instead of her. If you, I mean, maybe she worked for Jabba as well, probably did at some point, but he was like the right hand man, literally. So shouldn't he be the one knowing that stuff? You know,
Yeah.
stuff like that really doesn't make sense to me.
And I honestly, it makes sense what Two Star Wars Nerds is saying in this comment right here. I hope they're not going to go this way. He says, I personally think they're taking Boba Fett from an anti-hero to a hero. I wouldn't be surprised if he sacrificed his life for Din's at the end of the show. I agree completely. He needs to stay an anti-hero. Boba Fett becoming a good guy is very Disney and not very Star Wars.
I think he already is. That's how it feels to me. Like
Yeah.
Black Chrysanthemum attacks him, he just lets him go. To me, that's not a very smart move. Even though he's a paid bounty hunter, you know,
Right.
maybe he gets respect from him for that or something. But not a lot of gangsters and outlaws are gonna react that way
No.
honorably.
And
He's gonna
there's a
lose
way
head.
you could do that by saying like, look, I am choosing to free you. I'm not going to hold you here like an animal. I would like you to work for me. Like that's a better way to go about it, as opposed to like, don't work for scug holes and then just like let them walk away. Like that. Yeah, I don't know.
I kind of Tamuera is such a great actor. I absolutely. I'll be honest with you. The only reason why I was looking forward to the Book of Boba Fett was simply because of him. I love his acting. I want to see him in Star Wars more. That's like the only reason. Like my hopes weren't high at all, and still aren't. I don't really care, to be honest, where it leads.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I personally didn't like about Boba's story in general, I think they sacrificed his armor and his story arc for Din Djarin's, which to me is idiotic, to say the least. Because when you look at it, he was 5 years in Tatooine after Return of the Jedi. For 5 years, he was with the Tuskens or whatever. That means that he didn't look for his armor for 5 years at all. Didn't even think about it. Which means that they really set up the Jawas taking his armor simply for Din Djarin to get in, for Boba Fett to get into the picture of Din Djarin instead of it going the other way around. I think Boba should be the more important character to have a better story. To me, it seems like they sacrificed that. You get a armorless Boba Fett, like it's a discount Boba Fett in a way. Because to be honest, all of us want to see him in the armor everywhere.
Right.
I think
I think they could have some really great acting scenes and emotional moments with him with his helmet off, but the Boba Fett that presents himself to the people, to the other crime syndicates, needs to be helmet on. I agree with that. And what AVI says right here, he says, don't the clones age speed up? Don't they have the accelerated growth hormone? Yes, but not Boba Fett, because he was the unaltered clone. So he ages the same as a normal human. Let's catch up on some other comments here. But we didn't have the accelerated aging. Yeah, that's right. Hail to Alan Copeland. Nice to see you. Strike says Boba has never been a good guy or a bad guy. He's always been a man with no allegiance to no one but himself and his code. Yes. And maybe just his code has changed. Maybe just his whole outlook has changed in being with the Tuskens. I mean, think about that. He was with them for 5 years.
5 years.
Let's assume 5, maybe 6 years. Being with a family for that long, the only family you've ever known, because he never had Jango Fett as the true father that he needed, because his dad was always going off and doing bounty hunter missions. He never had family because all the other clones would, they didn't want to associate with him because he wasn't like them. He wasn't like all of them. Plus, you have the face of a million other people. Like you don't feel very special. And even when he was with Aurra Sing and the other bounty hunters, like he was kind of thrust into that lifestyle, and they weren't even really a family. So this Tusken family, the only family he's ever known, has given him new purpose, and he's with them for 5 years, and he comes back one day and they're dead. If the timeline plays out that way, this is just what I'm assuming. Is towards 5 years after that 5-6 year mark, when we get into the Mando timeline, when they're slaughtered by the Nikto speed bikers. That's traumatic. So it makes sense if his character is in that position of, I have nothing to live for now. I want to set up my own tribe, which is weird that he would want to kill Bib Fortuna and take over the Empire. Like, why is that the tribe you want to take over and create? But something that X-Wing said in one of his streams, I think it was actually yesterday's stream, he said, what if Din Djarin, as we had the music in the end of the episode allude that Din Djarin's going to show up, he comes and helps Boba defeat the Pikes, and then Din Djarin says, now I need you to help me reestablish Mandalore. Like, help me to bring all of our tribes back together under the title of Mandalore. And what if Boba Fett becomes the new Mandalore because he's being set up to be that leader of a tribe, of a family? That's something they were talking about. They said it way better than I just did right now. But that would make sense why they're setting him up this way, because maybe being the crime boss isn't what he's supposed to be. Maybe he is supposed to reestablish the Mandalorians. That would make a lot of sense if they do it right.
He does become Mandalore in the EU.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's epic. So it's a possibility, but one of the things that always kind of pissed me off with Disney canon was how much they would talk shit about the EU a lot.
Hold up.
I'm supposed to be mopping the floor. I don't really want to shoot anybody.
Very
out of context.
Definitely. They would talk badly about the EU, and then they would go on and do something 10 times worse. Well, let's say Palpatine returning, Dark Empire timeline where Palpatine returns in the expanded universe. At least they gave an explanation, and it's a fun story. That's probably considered one of the worst EU stories by a lot of people when they want to talk badly about the EU. But then Disney does it, and then it's okay. The thing is, I kind of dislike at this point when Disney takes EU stuff, because I remember when they bought Star Wars in 2012, all those articles like Screen Rant or whatever, the BS articles that are always stirring up people and stuff. Well, they were all talking badly about the EU. Good that it's gone. It's all garbage anyway. Blah blah blah. That's the way it went. But when Disney canon does the exact same thing, copies it, then it's suddenly okay and it's good. So I'm kind of curious to see what would happen if Boba would become Mandalore in the end. Would it suddenly be okay? Is it suddenly good because it's modern? Or is it still garbage?
Right. Well, it's very interesting because Disney has a lot of control over things. I mean, from a money standpoint, you want your company to be on the good side of Disney standpoint. Like, you want to have good relations with them as a company. So it's very interesting why they're all trashing the Book of Boba Fett, all these outlets. That does pose a really interesting question. If they do make Boba Fett Mandalore, tie it in with the Mandalorian series, and have the Mandalorians be this new force that rises from the ashes of what Mandalore used to be, how are those outlets going to say that they did that story, correctly or incorrectly with what the EU was and that sort of stuff? It's an interesting question. I got some chats to catch up on. Zim says that Jenna's podcast was talking about how Boba's character in the show and also aired their grievances. Yeah, a lot of people are complaining. A lot of people are liking it. It's just very chaotic right now. The armor in the name of Boba preceded his reputation. Look at how Fennec reacted to his name. Boba needs to wear his armor more to establish dominance. I love seeing Tamara Morrison, but we need more of the helmet. Unless that's just not his character now, which is how it is. Oh, we got Cobra Disney Jedi. How's it going? I think Din will leave with the slave one as a gift from Boba. I hope it doesn't go that way.
Same here.
I really hope it doesn't go that way.
But like, if they sacrifice something of Boba Fett's once again for Din Djarin, I'm like completely done. I watch it just for the sake of enjoying myself for an hour. Nothing too deep, I don't expect anything deep from Disney at this point. It's just like, oh, let's just enjoy some Star Wars, literally,
Right.
for an hour. It's fine. Blind entertainment is what it is for me. I don't think about it too much. I don't care about it. I don't let myself be invested, because if I do, you know where that leads when it comes to Disney canon. I get disappointed. But thankfully, it's post Return of the Jedi canon, so I can't be disappointed. I'm already completely
Right.
there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of
I
sense.
can at least I can enjoy it for an hour. Like, I'm not a fan of The Mandalorian, for example. I
Mhm.
watched it. I enjoy it for what it is, but I think it's very basic storytelling. Even in comparison to Star Wars Rebels, it's very basic storytelling. It's nothing special. And why I think people praised it a lot is it was the first live action Star Wars show. And
Right.
for some reason, when it comes to storytelling, it doesn't matter to people, from what I've seen. It doesn't matter if it's good storytelling, simple storytelling, bad storytelling. What matters is the format it's in. You can have the best stories in some comic, no one's going to care at all.
Mhm.
You can have the best storytelling in animation, which feels childlike, no one's going to care still. But then you can have something very basic, nothing special at all, when you compare it to other Star Wars things, and make a live action, and everyone's saying it's the best thing ever. I think
Right.
that a lot of people judge it that way. I don't think it's very fair when it comes to storytellers.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Zim, I think it's Zim. Zim says, when people ask me why I don't like Disney Star Wars, my answer is they made the Star Wars galaxy smaller and less interesting. I'll agree with that, with the exception of Clone Wars Season 7.
Completely agree. Although
Um,
I'd add Jedi Fallen Order, Rogue One, and Rebels there as well. Even Bad
Yes.
Batch to some point. That's my headcanon stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely with the sequels, it felt very claustrophobic, very constricted. Yeah, and it's not about just showing different planets. It's about establishing the world that's bigger, because we got planets in the sequel trilogy with, you know, the casino planet or whatever. Like, we got different planets, but it just still felt really small.
You know what's good? We have about 50 desert planets now in Disney canon.
Yeah.
Very fun stuff. Do you want to
Strike
count them?
says no. Strike says, what are your guesses on the armor change? So he's talking about the armor is like a different mold than it was in the original movies that they're using for this show. So he's very into the details of the mask, or the helmet is a different helmet than they used in the original. What's the explanation for why it's a different helmet? That sort of stuff. Probably just costume design is the simple answer. But as far as in canon, I have no idea. What was it? I was gonna click on something else, but I don't know. I don't remember. There are things about the show that I really, really love.
For example?
Well, one of the Easter eggs that I caught that I haven't seen a single other channel catch. And usually, if I catch an Easter egg, there'll be, you know, Screen Rant, 102 Easter eggs in the Book of Boba Fett episode or whatever, a bunch of different channels. Things you missed in this episode. I haven't seen another episode or another show channel catch this one. When Fennec is using her little torch thing to cut through the bars, the sound effect they use is the same sound effect as Count Dooku getting his head chopped off. It's a little sizzling sound. And it's the same sound effect as when Dooku gets his head chopped off. They reuse the same sound effect. I haven't heard another person mention that. One other person I was on stream with said that they heard it too. But as far as like other channels that catch Easter eggs, I haven't seen one catch it. That to me is super cool, that you would use that same sound effect that would register in some people's minds to tie it back with the prequels. There's sound effects they use that were from like one of the crash sounds from Sebulba's pod racer that they've used before. There's a lot of Easter eggs that go unnoticed, especially the audio ones. Like, you don't notice them unless you are really listening for them.
Technically, that's a constant thing in Disney canon when you look at it. They always do that, literally.
Yeah, of course. Even going back to the Wilhelm scream.
Oh, yeah.
But that shows me that the people that are making the show care. And whether the story is Disney or not, the people actually doing those sound effects and the sound design, those people care. And I really, really like that. So whether the story gets Disney or Boba Fett becomes a hero or whatever, I'm enjoying it because of those little things that I'm picking up that appeal to me as a Star Wars fan, as I would argue a hardcore Star Wars fan, regardless of how the story goes. So I'm really enjoying it because of those things. I think because I'm enjoying those things so much, it's helping me look past some of the criticisms that I have for the show. So I haven't given up on it. There's a lot of those things that I like that I'm picking up on. Max Rebo coming back, Figure and Dan, that sort of stuff that they're throwing in, not just the big names like Black Chrysanthemum or dropping the seismic charge. Like, it's the smaller details that really get me.
Well, when it comes to Max Rebo, technically we already knew that he survived, specifically because of Robot Chicken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna cite him what he says when he walks down the Sarlacc pit, but I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, there's, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that are really making it feel like Star Wars for me. And that's what I want. That's what I want. I want it to feel like Star Wars for me more than it to be a good story or a good show that appeals to a massive amount of people. And it's got to be really tough balancing those two things. On the one hand, you want to appeal to that hardcore Star Wars crowd because we know that the people that are making it are legitimate Star Wars fans. And on the other hand, you have Disney that needs to make money, and they need to appeal to the most amount of people. So the most amount of people possible buy their services and their toys and their products and that sort of stuff. So it's you can't do one or the other. If you make a hardcore Star Wars fan movie, one of the hands, if you make something that appeals to only the Star Wars fans that you or I would really appreciate and pick up a bunch of little things, and they did it perfect according to the EU, most people wouldn't care. And on the other hand, if you made something that is an entertaining show for most people, us Star Wars fans might get left in the dust. We might not, we might think they cheaped out, which is how I feel about the sequel trilogy, which is how some people felt. Oh my gosh. The Scooter Gang really felt like Star Wars. Oof.
Yeah, I hated that.
It was just a bad chase scene.
Too slow. You know what was like? It's probably even meme worthy. I don't know what type, but it would be like, you know, when they were attacking the speeder bike with his leg that is like bouncing,
yeah. And his like torch hand or whatever.
That kind of felt pathetic. Like,
yeah,
in a way, not in a way that I'm talking badly about the show, but it felt really pathetic. It's like a kid trying to hit an adult, and he's like holding his head. You know, that's how it felt with the.
Yeah, it was just. I think what really killed it for me in that episode was at the beginning, the guy that says, the watermonger guy says, there's this gang that modify their bodies with robot parts to make themselves more deadly. And I'm like, this is going to be cool. Like, do we know who this is so far? Like, I don't know. What group is this? And I was expecting like Grievous looking people. And then it's like, oh, I have light up goggles.
Yeah, in the end, it's the Alphabet Squad.
Right. Yeah, the Go-Go Inspector Gadget Power Rangers.
You know, actually, immediately when I saw them, I thought, yeah, this is the diversity card. Definitely.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
It's just...
They're there for the sake of being there, add nothing to the show, and piss off fans with identity politics.
A lot of people also didn't like the tattoo parlor scene where you know, the mod shop that he goes to.
Yeah, I didn't like it either, honestly.
I don't like it, but at the same time, like,
you know,
like
what's the problem
people,
with it?
if people looked into America and they think of the stereotypical things that Americans do, and then they walked into a tattoo parlor, they would think like, what? That's not American. that doesn't look like American. Like let's say like aliens look down on Earth. They're like, oh, where are the cheeseburgers and the football? Like this isn't America. And then they see the tattoo parlor, like it would look really out of place. So I'm kind of viewing it as that way. Yeah, it was like cyberpunk. And it's just, it didn't look Tatooine. It looked like it could have fit somewhere else in Star Wars, but not Tatooine.
It kind of felt like, I know there are a lot of things in Star Wars that are from real life in a way, if you know what I mean, kind of. But I feel there are too many things that they're taking from our reality and putting it into Star Wars and making it purposely feel like something out of our world, which is precisely why we don't want it in Star Wars.
Exactly. Star Wars is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's not us telling a story. It's this story has already happened. This is a distant past, a distant history. So the things that are in that world could not exist in our world right now because it's a totally different time. I one thing that took me out of the second episode, as much as I loved the second episode or second chapter, was when he was forging his gaffy stick. He was using chisels. Those are actual chisels, like that you could go to a store and buy. Like they weren't like Tuscan tools or anything. They were just chisels. And that really brought me out of it. The Boston Dynamics robots in the first episode, like that's something that we see here in our world. It shouldn't belong there. Star Wars needs to be Star Wars and not our world, because then it dates it. You know, when we look back at those certain things in 20 years, it's going to feel like 2022. It's not going to feel like Star Wars.
Yeah.
It has to be timeless.
You know, that's why a lot of stories from both the EU, from the games, Knights of the Old Republic, it all withstood the test of time and it's still great. While just watch the sequel trilogy, and do I even need to say anything regarding it? Or even other parts of Star Wars? The thing is, it's not even our world anymore. Specifically now, this is from my point of view, it would seem that Star Wars is only based in America now when it comes to the values that it's pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean the traditional values. I mean the postmodernist.
Yes.
CRAP.
Yep. I get you. I get you.
And I mean, specifically for us here, it's all garbage. And we don't want to see it. And a lot of people don't. Even you guys don't. Like the majority of fans, even in America, don't want to see that stuff. The typical Hollywood mainstream, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Don't want to get your channel shut down for it.
Yeah, no, and we talked about this the other day about how the values of America are changing. That, and going back to like the Constitution, what America is founded on is wholesome and pure, and ultimately it's founded on Christianity.
Yeah.
But the modern way that people actually, the way the culture is going is not to that same standard that it was originally.
The complete opposite, basically.
Right. And what the original Star Wars, the original trilogy, tapped into was universal truths. That's why the story was so good, is because they weren't unique to, let's say, 1970s America, right? They were outside of that.
It was basically something that every person on Earth could look up to. What you said, it's basic truths, timeless as well. The family, redemption of the irredeemable, good versus evil.
Yes.
It's timeless. That's why it works.
Right.
And
then people will
Sorry.
people complain about that being like the same story we've always heard retold, but it's true. It's all true.
It doesn't matter. It's still true. It's the truth when you look at it.
Let me catch up on some comments real quick. We got Gecko Scout. I believe this is the first time I've seen you here, so welcome. We've also got Figs and Trees Figueroa. Welcome to the channel. I haven't seen you here before. So here's a sip for both of you guys. He says, I've noticed that a lot of channels were complaining about the scooter gang, specifically the modifications. Isn't mods in Star Wars lore, like in KOTOR and SWOTOR? Yes, I think it was mostly the design of the scooters. The speed of the chase didn't help. But also the colors, a lot of people said were too bright. The mirrors were too flashy, at least for Tatooine. You put those same scooters on, let's say, like the underworld of Coruscant, I don't think they would have stood out as much. But on Tatooine, where everything should be more muted colors, weathered, for a biker gang, you'd expect maybe some carbon scoring from some blaster marks. It didn't look like they fit. They looked too new. Everything in Star Wars is used and worn. And Star Wars is not a utopia, it's a dystopia. Everyone's fighting for these resources, which is why you see ships with mismatched panels. You rarely see anything that is like finished and nice looking unless there's money involved, like the Naboo cruiser that's all silver. Like that looks nice because that's royalty from Naboo. That makes sense. But everything, especially on Tatooine, should look used and worn and recycled, like Anakin's pod racer did in The Mandalorian when they were using that as a speeder. Like that fits to me. I didn't have a problem with that. But I think a lot of people just didn't like it because it didn't look like it fit, especially on Tatooine.
Also, the different colors didn't help at all.
Right.
At the same time, they don't have a job. They're broke, apparently.
Right.
And they have new scooters and they have money to modify themselves.
Right. Yeah,
And
it just didn't seem like it fit.
And also, they're pushing the diversity cards for the sake of pushing it. If it the thing I've noticed with identity politics in general is every time they push something, it feels unnatural, and maybe that's why it felt so bad in this. If it was done naturally, the way normal people in general would act, I don't even know how to describe that anymore because it's so bastardized to the point of disbelief that I can't even imagine how you would do something so normal with simply different people that it didn't seem like you're pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem is they put like 3 different races in a gang of 4.
Right. Yeah, and it's more of the messaging behind certain things that they do rather than the actual thing themselves.
Agreed.
Because like if there's people of different races or accents or whatever, I don't care. I don't notice that stuff. But when there's a certain gang and they have to have their equal representation, or they have to be proud of like, oh, we have a gay couple kissing at the end of our movie. Like everyone watched the movie because of that. Like that's becomes your focus instead of the story.
Yeah, give me the Singapore cut for it. I'd rather take that, definitely. Now, the thing is, at the same time, the problem is that what they're doing specifically. Like, in here while you're watching it, because you've heard them talk, it's all about that stuff.
Yeah. What 2 Star Wars nerds are saying right here, I would say the majority of Americans hate Hollywood. The culture and values of Hollywood are a poison. Absolutely, especially if you take into account all the very immoral lifestyles of people in Hollywood, things you have to do to become successful in Hollywood. It is a poison.
Things you do to stay young in Hollywood.
Yeah. Whether we're getting into conspiracy theories or stuff that is confirmed or probably true, like, yeah, I agree. Let's catch up on the rest of the. Gecko says something right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say they probably have back to pods or something.
I'm sure. Gecko says, anybody have a problem with the hints of a hip hop beat in the music that bother them? It just doesn't fit. Not me. Ludwig Göransson is my favorite composer. Him and starts with a Z. I don't remember. He did Inception. Ludwig Göransson, I loved the score for Tenet. And he did The Mandalorian as well, and he's doing Boba Fett. It's really cool. It's really innovative. As a musician myself, there's little things that I pick up on that are very creative musical choices. In the tattoo parlor, I liked it, but I get why people think it doesn't fit. I like it. From a musician standpoint, it's really awesome. Does it feel Star Wars? Maybe not.
From a musician standpoint as well, I do play quite a bit of different things. Piano, guitar, and used to play violin. So
okay.
The thing is, when it comes to the Dark Trooper theme, as well as this one, I'm not really a fan of it. But in general, what I don't like about the music here in the Book of Boba, I like some parts of it, but what I didn't like was the wasted opportunity of using the classic, maybe the upgraded classical version of Boba Fett you hear in The Empire Strikes Back, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
That original theme, it's not used at all. I'd love to hear it at least for a bit. Kind of feels like a wasted opportunity because it feels badass. And this doesn't feel badass for Boba. It kind of suits him as well, but it doesn't feel like badass Boba like it used to. I think it might be very simple. People want to see the badass Boba.
Well, I think they did that with the theme when he shot Bib Fortuna. With that theme, that felt incredibly menacing as well. To me, the dun 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 dun. That was very menacing. And no one even knew if Boba Fett was a show, the Book of Boba Fett, if it was a book or a comic. No one knew at all back then. I do know a lot of people that do have criticisms just with the score in general of the show. JP says, I don't know. My buddy who has not been tainted by all of this YouTube rhetoric criticism is loving Boba Fett. It's really made me realize just how much of a YouTube commentary has ruined my enjoyment of a lot of shows. That's completely fair. Just hearing people pick things that they don't like constantly, and people like to complain more than they like to appreciate. And so people, if your news feed on YouTube, your subscription feed is full of people complaining about a show, that will definitely taint your enjoyment. Gecko says, I've been watching for about 10 minutes. And I already like this coffee guy and agree with his takes 100%. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you stopping by. If you feel so inclined, hit the subscribe button. I definitely appreciate it. Working towards that 1,000 subscriber mark to get monetized. That would be awesome.
How much
but
more
thank
do you
you.
need?
I am, last I checked, 670, I think.
What about I meant the hours.
Hours? Okay, so hours, I was at like 1,400. I unlisted a lot of older videos that weren't Star Wars related. So I've only been doing Star Wars stuff for about 8 months. So I unlisted a lot of older videos, and that it dropped to like 1,000. But by the time I hit 1,000 subs, I'll be right back up there with the watch hours. Live streams definitely help with watch time. But Gecko, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you being here. Strike says, like, the fire spray thing isn't bad in itself because it's literally called that in Bounty Hunter game where Django acquires it. People got mad because the whole name change controversy was fired up. Yeah, completely agree. And I think if they were to allude to the name being the fire spray, which I honestly still think it's the slave one, they did it in the right way. He said, help me recover my fire spray gunship. He didn't say, let's get the fire spray. Like, this is my ship, the fire spray. Like, this. Otherwise, they could have done it. That would be way less tolerable for fans.
I think they need to mention the slave one at least once, just to get that clear.
Yes, I agree.
Because if they don't, it's literally going to seem like they purposely left that out because, wow, slave one. Who cares?
Right.
It's the name of a ship. Why do you care so much? It's just the word. I've noticed that generally in your culture, words are very dangerous for I don't know what reason. Like,
it's confusing.
It's not a big deal. Half of it,
right?
It's I don't know. For me here, no one cares.
The smallest group of people that are offended by things make the most noise. So most people you'll find don't care. Like talking to people in church, on the street, in a store, don't care. It's the 2-3% of people that really have a problem with it because they want to feel virtuous for having a problem with things that make the most noise. So that's definitely not how the general population feel here, especially not here in Tennessee, which is part of the reason why I moved here. Electronic music just doesn't fit well in Star Wars. Needs to be organic. Yeah. The Spy Kids aesthetic of the shop was bad. Well, who directed it? We got Aiden here. Nice to see you here.
Also,
We also got Daryl.
you know what we need, actually? We need to talk about the best part of the show, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The General Grievous droid.
Yes.
I
I love the whole kitchen scene.
Yeah, I love that. I
People
love
didn't
that as
even
well.
like the rat catcher droid.
Yeah, that sounds cool, honestly.
Yeah, I laughed so hard when they're like, I'll call the rat catcher. And then he walks in with his little net. I laughed so hard. I thought that was so funny.
I immediately had to do the meme, like immediately. I had to just put the voiceover of Grievous and everything in the scene with the hello there. It's just a perfect meme in a way.
Yeah.
So enjoyable. Everyone thought of it. General Kenobi.
Yep. I said that during my reaction too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Cool. Well, I guess if there's anything else you'd like to add, I gotta go. My daughter's just still wanting to do stuff before the day's over.
Yep, no problem. Well, we'll see what happens. I'll try and enjoy it as much as I can.
Yeah.
But to me, the problem is it will always be inferior to what came before it. And probably one of the biggest parts why I feel that way is because they sacrificed this armor for Din Djarin's storyline, which I would have preferred it to go the other way around. But it's what Disney does with characters from the original trilogy for some reason.
Right.
Always has to be downgraded.
Right. At the very least, we have what we like, and if they give us stuff that we end up liking, then great.
I think even if
yes, but even if Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out in May or whenever it's coming out and it's terrible, I'm starting to kind of be of the opinion, well, then I don't really care. I'll go read the Bane trilogy again.
The thing is, my red flag for that is probably the rematch with Vader and Obi-Wan. If it's an actual rematch, if it's a dream sequence or a vision or a flashback, okay.
Right.
But if they're actually going to meet again, it's a deal breaker immediately for me.
Right.
Like, I'm sick of them disrespecting the lore so much.
That's a good way to put it. Well, you're definitely welcome back to discuss future Book of Boba Fett episodes or Kenobi or whenever. You're more than welcome to come back on my channel because this was a great talk, great discussion. I hope everyone in the chat, you guys appreciated it as well. And just remember the Force is family. I know that's not my phrase. That's the Star Wars guys' phrase, but we gotta stick together whether we like stuff or not, whether we appreciate others' opinions or not, which we should be at least respectful of how people feel, because you can't change the way people feel. If you don't like the show, but I really do, if it means a whole lot to me, you can't convince me that it's bad for me because I feel this certain way. And if you don't like it, like you, Luke, if you say I enjoy it, but I don't really appreciate it or whatever, or care. Yeah. I'm not going to convince you by telling you, yeah, but there's this sound effect in there. Yeah, but this character showed up. Yeah, but this thing was so cool. Like, I'm not going to convince you of that. And so if we're respectful of how we feel about the shows and then just have legitimate discussions about things that are positive or negative or whatever, that's the way to go. So stay positive, everyone. Thank you for coming by tonight. Really, if you've been here from the beginning, I really appreciate your time. And I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.